Peace, everybody. Excuse me if the view is a little bit different. I got an Android now. Soon to have an iPhone again. But peace, yo. Um, I want to make this video about kind of general scope of things, but initially, um, 13 signs and 12 signs astrology, and I'm only speaking on those to kind of bring things down to earth for the people who don't know about Moors, for the people who've been knew about Moors and need to come into a new phase of fruition, a new mindset, because that's what time it is, right? The end is the beginning. So I wanted to talk about astrology. Start off with that 13 signs, 12 signs, lies, truths, all that type of stuff. Of course, related back to even international law. Because international law is what? A highest type of tier. What is spirituality? A highest type of tier. So I'm talking about the highest type of tiers today, right? And just how we blend in to new worlds of understanding and learning, because that's what's being presented. It's a new energy being ushered on Earth, into Earth, and how we need to integrate with it. We need to ground it. We need to international law. What is international law? Integrate. What is to integrate? Well, if you've seen my metaphysics of international law video, when we talk about international law, you got to have a Gematria type of frequency or mindset to think about this, a Gematria mindset. International law, we're talking about integrity. We're talking about transparency, honesty. We're talking about what they call beauty. They call this sphere of beauty in Kabbalah. So when we talk about international law, Tippereth, integrity, all that, right? These INT words, integrate. Integrate what? How? Transmute, right? Spiritual alchemy into higher worlds. Because that's what's going on right now. It's a new world being ushered in many different ways. And it's up to us to ground it. Okay. And I'm not talking about just going and creating an altar. I'm not just talking about, going to write little affirmations on the paper, stuff like that. It's, something that may work for some people, all that type of stuff, that's fine. But there's gonna come a time we gonna measure this out. We're gonna measure it. I'm gonna really speak my mind today. We're gonna measure this out because it's important to know different measurement systems when you're measuring the truth, right? You can take spirituality itself, right? We can just say higher self, right? Even though everything is spirituality, even the body. Let's just differentiate the two for now. Yin and yang, right? If we take the higher self or the spiritual sense, we have to ground ourselves when we're talking about ushering in a new world in every sense. Not just depend on, the ways of spirituality that's been working with us, supporting people within that last age. It's a new age being ushered in. That means new things must be implemented. Okay. This is why they say the new Moors are coming in to change things. It's a new everything. So, and even that, in a sense. Well, let's just start with this 13 signs and 12 signs astrology, because I want to start basic. You know what I'm saying? I want to start where people will understand this. So because international law can be a bit, law itself could be a bit direct for people, too direct, right? Some people look at these words and be like, I don't understand this. or I partially understand this. But that's what it was set up to do. Because all of that is about spell. Law is what attaches everything. True law, the unwavering principle, right? Allah, all law, right? Matching universal law with man's law. People don't understand the barrier behind law. That's that 1/64th of Thoth's eye. We understand all the other fractions of the eye, but it's that 1/64th of Thoth's eye that's missing. What is that? That's law. What kind of law? International law. Why international law? Because in the spiritual sense, not only does it have its lawful physical principles, but in the spiritual sense, international law is the Tippereth point. That's how you integrate into higher states. That's how you, if you understand and look up the science of the Tippereth point, you understand that it's the center of all things. Okay? It's the center where you, quote unquote, use all your spiritual powers, your ritual powers, your astral juice, whatever you want to call it. It's the sphere where you exercise your Merkaba because you're in a center, right? You finally can tap into your powers. So when I say a Gematria mindset, you got to have a very vast mindset just trying to understand other avenues of life. So if you don't understand international law, right, it might say it might be a little bit hard for you to understand. It's important for you to at least study the frequency, something that's on the same type of frequency as that, so you can begin to see how it works. It's the same frequency, right? So if you understand, let's just say you understand international law first. If you understand that and begin to see the spiritual aspect in law, in international law specifically, then you'll start to integrate, in everywhere else, because you're coming from the center and you're blooming from that part. So that's coming from international law, right? The unwavering principle, the physical and the spiritual part. What is the physical? The physical is the actual laws, right? The actual, what is international law? What is statehood? The definition. What is that in the spiritual sense? Okay, you gotta just look at it in the spiritual sense. What is state? State is state of mind. What is international law? International law means to integrate into another nation, another world. So if you're taking this high tier system of international law, then you take the other high tier, which is the physical, right? The other high tier system, which is spirituality. You take the definitions, the words, the basics, the core principles of this high tier system, and begin to use your intuition, your third eye, right? If you have a Mercury and Pisces, you know what I mean. Because we ain't gonna get in. Well, we can't get in that because we're about to get in astrology, but Mercury and Pisces, and I'm not just saying that because I have it, but other placements that even I don't have, everybody doesn't have every grand placement, but that's one of those grand placements, a lot of times. But so when you deal with international law again, right? And we leading into just this is just the basics. The basis of international law, the basis of spirituality. Right? The basics of two systems that we should have been starting off, and it's some of the highest systems. Right? So you got international law, you got spirituality. So, y'all probably look at some of y'all probably see my posts and seen, state, what is state all the time? What is statehood? What is the definition? All that type of stuff. Okay, by now you probably understand the spiritual aspects of not only is it the physical government, But state is your state of mind. Heaven is a state of mind, right? Heaven is a state, right? Okay, let's make that, bring it down to earth. Bring heaven down to earth, right? If heaven is a state of mind, right? Let's more say our state is Allah, our state is Muslim, our state is whatever you are, right? And then international law, your state is your fiscal government, i.e., your three branches of government, your state constitution, state seal, state flag, inauguration, etc. That means you're literally connecting heaven to earth. Okay. Now, it being a new age, again, if state is state of mind and you create a state, you're connecting heaven to earth. Now, let's think about this. When you read these historical books, some of them talking about ancient mythologies, a lot of the times the priests and priestesses are the actual government itself, Islam, yo. If not, they have close relations with the actual government, because the government is the actual so-called priests and priestesses, the ancient orders, all this types of stuff. And if not, it was close, again, people who was closely related with the government. So why is international law, or why law period, why does it talk like that? Why does it come off not like the average person's conversation? Because that's the science. That's the science to this. It's made to try to shy you away from it because you think like something else. That's a part of these so-called spells. But again, that's the 1/64th of Thoth's eye that's missing. Because whoever can control that can control everything else. So it's just like how Moors say nationality is, the navel, in relations to the navel, the center. Well, nationality is, and we talking about nationality, actually state. The nationality is the lower self. State is the higher self. Right? Your state of mind. It goes nationality, nation, state, state of mind. It's all the same thing. The same word, literally. So again, just going into international law, or excuse me, I gotta get something to drink. Going into 13 signs astrology and 12 signs astrology. All right, my fault. So going into 12 signs astrology, because from we'll get a new, it's the new Moors is gonna push the old Moors to the back, right? It's the people that don't know nothing about law, nothing about Moors, that's gonna learn from how to do things the correct way, as far as how to start a state government, right? It's not gonna be much of the Moors that's dealing with cognitive dissonance, been studying for years, think they got it, so they stuck in their ways, right? So they think they got the highest of ways. There's a lot of Moors like that. Most of the Moors. I'm not saying my way is, this is my way. It's not. This is, if you read the instructions, these are the instructions ways. These are the ways that before any of us were born, these instructions were here. So even before Noble Drew Ali. So we have to start with the basics, realize where to start. You don't just want to start anywhere, right? So for the people who don't know about Moors, know about law, in my opinion, where you should start is with just look at yourself, your natal chart. That's where you should start, right? Now on the lawful side, you should start on international law, at international law. So your natal chart in international law. Why do I say international law? Because the United States government, the United States stuff, that's not top tier. So why start there? Why even deal with it? That's the Wizard of Oz. It's imaginary. It's not real. It's de facto, right? So why we deal with it like this de jure? Why put trusts, corporations like this? United States corporation is pretending to be a state that can't even be a de jure government. Why enforce the U.S. laws? So we're not even gonna start there. We're gonna start with the natal chart and international law, right? So again, I'm into spiritual alchemy, right? I'm into law and spirituality. Okay. My goal personally is to get people to be comfortable in the confident ways in which that we should be stepping in. Not according to my opinions, but according to the instructions that's been laid down before any of us are born. And the instructions are in the Moorish treaties. Right? Why? Because this land is Morocco. Moroccan Empire. So this is energy therapy, spiritual therapy for Moors who are spiritual and want to understand Moors or even want to understand international law specifically. So because we all want to start a government or be a part of a government that's for us. I think every melanated person on this land can vouch for that, or should, at least. But so again, that's part of my purpose, right? To help people usher in and ground themselves. My moon, my Capricorn moon, and we gonna even go into that again. But to get into the astrology in here in a second. But my Cap moon is all about the grounding. It's all about law, right? My Pisces sun is all about this spiritual stuff, right? So it's hard for anyway. So just again, ask questions, face your cognitive dissonance without fear, right? When you feel yourself tense up, when you feel yourself come to a blank space because you don't know the answer and somebody kind of penetrating you, don't learn to get beside yourself. Just let go of that space, view it. If you know you're not right, okay, view it so you can correct that space. Don't look at it personal. You got to get outside of that so you're not taking it personal, because this, what you feel is demeaning you know, whether it may be constructive criticism. Some people even take a question to offense and think and feel demeaning based off a question. But it's vital that in order for you to start your spiritual growth, you're going to have to integrate into another space, right? And observe yourself. Okay. So face your cognitive dissonance, right? Um, with that said, 13 signs astrology and 12 signs astrology, just starting with the basics, right? Even though some people it's not 13 signs not common to people, but we gonna get into why, right? Even in relation to international law, because that's what helped me understand a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with international law. But so 13 signs astrology, right? Some people say it's not true, some people say it's true, whatever. The reason, now I'm about to go into a little bit of history and the metaphysical aspects of this before I get into another phase. The reason why predominantly we say 12 signs astrology today is for a few main reasons. Great resets, like mud floods and so-called flood zero, all type of different type of floods, water and stuff, right? Wars, deception, timeline manipulation, Mandela effect, a combination of these things. Okay, so 12 signs astrology, truly, just to get straight to the chase, 12 signs astrology truly started when the so-called ancient Egyptian is, as we think is over in Africa, with the dynastic periods, the first pharaoh. That's when 12 signs astrology started there. Now, quick disclosure. Here in so-called America, that's really Morocco, they call this Turtle Island, where the turtle has 13 shells. When we talking about mapping things out as far as in the pre-dynastic times here in this landmass, opposed to the dynastic times there when the Great Reset happened and things began to get transferred, one of the Great Resets, right? That's when 12 signs astrology became predominant, or it started to become a thing. Now, 12 signs astrology is similar to 13 signs astrology, very, very similar. That's why you can argue, because it's like saying the mind and the breath, and you trying to separate the two, knowing that the mind is the breath, or the breath is the mind in action. So they're different things, yeah. But to separate them in entirety, like it's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's like trying to separate the church and the state. That's like trying to separate higher self and lower self. That's trying to separate public and private. No. They have its differentiations, yes. You can decipher them, yes. But to take them from apart, it's like trying to take your spirit from your body and then trying to be spiritual here. It's not possible. If your breath is not in that body, you are not here. Right? So, you got to have pretty much a Gematria mindset. Right? But again, we starting basic. Your natal chart and international law. Why international law? Because the highest system of law. So you want to start with the basics there. Right? So what is your natal chart about? Right? You're looking at yourself like, well, this Moorish state government thing sounds pretty good. I don't really see no misses. Right? I don't know. I don't want to be official, but I want to be involved. Right? What does your natal chart say? Some people are not called to be official. They're not called to be speakers like that. They're not called to be in these seats of office, simple and plain. But some people are called to establish businesses, which can support a more state government, in which that's how a lot of how state governments are ran, because they have corporations, right? Taxes, all this type of stuff, right? You pay taxes to a government so that things won't happen anymore. Certain protections come, right? Now, kind of get off of track just a little bit right quick, and then we're going to get back into astrology. On the spiritual tip, there's what you called if you've ever heard things like eye in the sky. Some people even heard pie in the sky, or the phoenix. Right? We different spiritual or cosmic configurations that represent actual events and actual energetic alignments, right? Mental alignments, right? So let's get a little bit more specific with that. There's what's called the phoenix, or the eye in the sky, in which every so often there's different type of patterns, right? Like there's different type of wheels within a computer to make it turn. There's different type of patterns that allow you to measure out how the universe is going to unfold. If you look up on YouTube, Archaix, Archaix, he speaks on that. It's actually quite a few people that speak on that in their own way, but he speaks on that a lot. So really, now is one of those times where the phoenix, right, is about to basically come, right? In a sense, it already has came. But when we talk about an energy ushering something into this earth, into this realm, into this dimension, we're talking about not something that literally happens overnight. For some people, it does because that's when it hits them. But for people who know how to measure, been calling stuff out. They just know exactly when something is going to change. Okay. Yeah. Yep. That's how you spell it. Yep. And I'm glad you typed it in, so I didn't have to. But yeah, that's how you spell it. If you type in Archaix, exactly what you said, and then Phoenix, you'll find more videos on that. But check his videos out because he goes through a long list of timelines, different years, in which that you can find out when these great resets happened. Okay, so it's a number of great resets that happen on this landmass. You might find, ancient Egyptian art. On this same landmass, you might find what looks to be Greek or Roman art. Great resets. Great resets. Everything still came from this landmass. It's great resets. So when we're talking about 13 signs astrology, just to get back into that, because this Phoenix concept in relation to 13 signs and 12 signs astrology is like the Kundalini. It's to usher you into a new phase. Right? Some of you may have heard me say the Kundalini make you go, right? The Kundalini it births the Christ seed. Right? The Kundalini is like the certain type of astral fluid that births the Christ seed. The Kundalini is a certain type of perception. It's a certain type of process. It's not even a certain type. It's very vast, actually. Kundalini is in relation to a lot of things, but it has its different intensities. It's different revelations. It's different levels, right? So you might use Kundalini in the astral realm on one level while you sleep, dreaming. You might realize something. You might realize even how to use your spirit while you're dreaming. That's Kundalini giving you that realization. It's a process. It's not a one thing, right? Just like the Christ seed. I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but the Christ seed it's not a one thing. We can call it one concept, but it's not that simple. We call it like the Christ seed to simplify it, right? So we can pinpoint the perception, keep things direct, organized, right? But that's what the Phoenix is. This in relation to the 13th and 12 signs. It's something that births anew. So let's talk a little bit more about this 13 signs, because I talked a little bit about this phoenix, right? Which is basically here, and you can pretty much say it's not yet. But for the people who really know, it's been here. It's just being orchestrated by so many people, good and bad. Now, when we talking about 13 signs, right? We talking about something that's so-called so far off, something that doesn't have much proof in today's time, something that you might can even say doesn't go back past the 1930s, according to most books, according to the books at all. So not only do we have to take into account there's very little information on, yep, the Christ seed is, yeah. We're gonna tap back into that too, because all this is connected. But we got to know again how to measure this stuff out, right? So in relation to this 13 sign astrology, how we say 13 moons, and all this type of stuff. How the 13 signs is the for the moons, right? While the 12 signs is for the sun, i.e. matriarch, patriarch. But when we talk about, again, the 13 signs astrology in relation to the 12 signs, they say the Babylonians, the Greeks, the Phoenicians was the first ones to use this stuff. Phoenicians, the first one to create the alphabet, all this type of stuff. Phoenicians. Who were the Phoenicians? The people that left this landmass and go to Africa, right? And establish shop there, set up shop there. What they set up, the 12 signs astrology. Now, that's not to say it's a lie, because what is 12 signs astrology like? United States. If you're using your Gematria mindset, 13 signs is like Moorish state government. 12 signs is like United States. So if 13 signs is like Moorish state government, not a lot of people understand it, understand these concepts. It's only going to be a few. 13 signs is only necessary for a few people, right? All these systems of astrology are useful. Whether you want to talk about Sidral, tropical, right? Vedic astrology, which is, more advanced than the Western, right? True Vedic astrology. But it's all to get you to exercise your mental, because Western astrology is very basic, very bland. Whereas Hindu or Vedic astrology is more intricate, more dynamic. You gotta know a little bit more something to truly understand it. Right? It's the same thing for 13 signs. It's a process. It's like saying melanin and carbon is the same, knowing that it is and it's not. Melanin is the process. Carbon is the physical, actual thing. Right? You're not going to see melanin on the elemental chart. Why? Because it's carbon. But then when we say, well, melanin does this, melanin does that, all these, we're talking about a different phase of carbon. That's like saying this, your body is spiritual, because you got muscle memory and all this type of stuff, but that's what your mind has, memory, right? So if it's all connected, then it's all connected. Simple as that. But you have to learn how to differentiate, right? So again, 13 signs is a little bit far off, but let's ground ourselves again. With this, let's ground ourselves. Let's stay grounded for a second, even though it may not have seemed grounded so far. But let's just stay with the grounded concepts, right? The history of 12 signs astrology, because you don't see traditions on this landmass using 12 signs astrology in relation to things like the turtle. You have to bring everything to concept. Why is it that American Indian is a concept that's everywhere, but you ain't gonna find more? It's very hard to find more. It's way harder to find more than it is American Indian, because there are certain levels of great resets, basically, right? They're allowing that word to be out. They want that to be out there rather than more, right? They want 12 signs to be out there rather than 13, right? But I'm not saying 12 signs. Everybody should be using 12 signs astrology. Why? Again, just like how, let's compare 13 signs to magic. Let's compare 13 signs to a phase that we don't want everybody tapping into, because not everybody is responsible enough to handle that. I wouldn't want all Moors in seat of office just because all Moors want to be a part of a government, because I don't trust the character of all Moors. Some Moors truly have a dirty character. I wouldn't want that Moor in the government I'm a part of. So with that being said, it's not wise to give everybody this magic or 13 signs astrology. It's not wise to give everybody a certain piece of knowledge if you know they can't handle it. If they're gonna continue to be too spaced out with it, right? It's not healthy to give that person more spaced out information if you can't help them ground it, right? So, and I remember my first time understanding that, and it was bad, because it was bad. So in relation to 12 signs, again, we want to start basic, because not everybody's meant to be official of a state government. All right, we're getting in where you fit in. Where do you fit in? Well, look at your natal chart, right? How do you see yourself supporting or being a part of any government? Right? There's governments all throughout the world. So basically, how do you see yourself being a part of life and implementing any type of government, supporting the government? You're gonna support the government by paying taxes, right? Paying taxes is not a bad thing. Paying taxes is, if you understand that all you got to pay is so much percent, just so this lifestyle won't happen again, just so we don't get colonized again, ever, so you can tap into your resources and riches. I think that's worth it. I think that's worth it. And a certain amount of people handle that, I think that's worth it. So, the concept of unity is actually the concept of uniformity. We gotta mature our concepts of these energies, these perceptions. We gotta mature this. We gotta ground it. We gotta reality, real life interactions. And even when we talk about state government, we got to talk about the so-called uncomfortable conversations. Even with that, that's what a spiritual alchemist does. We don't run from nothing. We face it all, right? True integrity, stand upright, right? And every time cognitive dissonance comes your way, it's up to you to humble your own self, so you can let that energy create more space within you, because obviously that's another energy trying to teach you something, right? Even if it's so-called ignorance from coming from an ignorant person, we can learn from everybody, right? But we also have to lay the floor down, draw the line, right? Mom and dad, right? Work with the feminine, the receptive, listen to people. Yet you're gonna draw that line, right? So, um, again, just to start basics, um, your natal chart, because not everybody, should be official in any type of government. Some people are to be, in temples. What type of temples? Temples supported by more state governments. It's the only way to clean the temple out, right? That's the only way. You can't name me not one person that cleaned the temple out. Why? Because it never happened. Why? Because More state governments are just now being established. We just now developing, right? What is state? State is a person in international law, right? What is person? Jesus taking a wheel. What is this state thing? State is your Merkaba coming, literally ushering into your reality, saying, step in and utilize. It's your Merkaba. It's the final part of your Merkaba. And if we look back, we really be like, dang, the answers to the starting of state been here. The answers starting to your Merkaba been here. Look back when certain things were set up, it's been decades. It's been decades. Right? The answers to the test been there, physically and spiritually. But so again, let's start with 13 signs astrology, because just in 12 signs astrology history, because using a Gematria mindset, that's why I'm everywhere with it, kind of. But I'm trying to, bring it back to one. So 13 signs astrology it seems so far off, and not everybody should use it. Right? It may not seem relatable to you. Right? For some people it is. Right? Some people are actually more ancient souls and can't ground themselves in this reality and won't. But they're here to usher in that aspect. That's fine. Right? But there's a centerpiece called Tippereth that connects all of that. Meaning that there's one word that it's truly a trigger word to everybody. And it's up to us to really keep finding out in knowledge and see what that word is. Right? So that's what the Tippereth point is like. It's like this one point that connects everything in the world, in the universe, physically and mentally. Right? So in relation to this 12 signs, I believe that, again, we're not going to have that many officials in the state government. We're going to have way more nationals when it's, a fully developed government. There'll be way more nationals, just like it is in real life. There's way more so-called citizens than there are people in the actual government, right, running the government. That's pretty obvious. So it'll be the same way in this more state government, right? That's why it's important for people to not press themselves to say, man, I know we need a more state government, and I know I understand it, but law might not be my thing. Law is not my thing. There's a few ways that I personally would suggest how you can handle that. Right? It's a few ways, according to my opinion. Again, when you're looking at your natal chart, one option, there's two options, in my opinion. I say you can look at your natal chart, and if somebody in your territory has already created a state government, join them, and you don't have to be an official. You can be a national. And continue to find your place in how you can support that. Right? And we're going to even get more so in that reality, because nothing changes when you create a state government. You keep doing what you've been doing. Literally, nothing changes. Nothing changes until you create it. The straw man, you keep doing it. You keep using your straw man because it's about to be placed in a Moorish state government. So everything in relation to that straw man, the money, everything attached to it, Moorish state government, is yours. But, so you're not running from nothing. A lot of people think you're attracting a lot of tension we gonna get more into that, because I'm not even trying to get to that part yet, because that's kind of like the end of the basics in the spiritual sense, because I'm going to tie spirituality in. I want to just talk about law, because it's all the same, but I feel like you got to really chop it down. So, so you don't think, nothing changes as far as, so it's not effective, it don't work. I don't mean that. I'm saying it's a process, a due process in law, right? In which, in order for things to work, you got to follow the due process in law. That's physical and spiritual. So, things just don't come overnight, truly. Things just don't come dropping in your hands. Like, they just don't pop up as physical beings, like arm and leg. You know what I'm saying? It's a process, right? So, back to the basics. The history of 12 signs and 13 signs astrology, how it changed, was in relation to what we call the Phoenicians, right? If you scramble up the word, you might get WEJS. They love banning me. They love shadow banning me, but so the history of 12 signs astrology in relation to 13 signs. It's not to say 13 signs is faulty, not real. It's not to say 12 signs is faulty and not real. Just like it's not to say United States is faulty and not real. Or like this physical is faulty and not real. This physical is real, right? That's what makes contradiction is just you trying to weigh out two sides and saying there's a middle point. Both sides exist and both sides don't exist, right? For you to say this exists, this physical exists, right? And you say spiritual don't exist, well, spirit just means breath, so tell me that doesn't exist. For you to say, this physical doesn't exist, but spirituality is so real. You mean to say that the mind is a physical object and that's what you're not using that? You mean to say that if you go get hit by a car, you can pin totally on your spirituality to be fine every time? Like, you got a pact. That's all you need. Like, there's no reason why you're here. So, you have to think from this middle path, right? What you call the Gematria mindset. This vast thing, yet it's this simple, unwavering principle. Very simple. The history of 12 signs and 13 signs astrology, again, Phoenicians taking their concept of astrology during causing a great reset. One of the first great resets, or I wouldn't say one of the first, in what we call the first great resets, right? They took the information, turned 12 into 13, or, they went from 13 to 12. And, you can see, if you read up on the Pleiades, right? Or just put it like this: history versus mythology. History is the obvious stuff, right? History is obvious. We can pull that out with so-called facts, right? Mythology is what they tried to hide that predated history, what they can, hide. History, mythology is what they can't hide. Or excuse me, history is what they can't hide. So they give you that. Mythology is what they can hide. So that's where they put the juice at. So it's just like saying history is the dynastic period. Mythology is the pre-dynastic period. Right? They can hide more in it. Because it's not about the physical material. That's what you're using to trace the spiritual. They're trying to tap into the spiritual. So there's so many doors until it seems like there's no more doors. but it's actually mythology, right? So we can use history, so much of it, right, to say, look, this is how they rearrange this. This is how they say, things go back 10,000 BC to 15,000 BC. You might even find in some books, very rarely, way earlier than that, BC, right? But generally, a lot of them say 10 to 15,000. So you figure that's a frequency, right? That encompasses so much in the earth, because that's the common, you know, answer when in regards to this sphere, this field. So you say, okay, that's a measurement, because you've seen some predating that, and of course you know the ones that's on the other side, because that's what they taught us in school. So you take these different measurement systems, right? As far as the meaning of words, as far as timelines, how people, even when you get down to judging, how people, the character, how, when you get down, okay, let's just say, right, Pisces is what they call the last sign, right? After the Pisces, a new phase is, ushers in, right? So we going backwards the other way. We're going to Aquarius age. So in a human sense, it would be good to say, safe to say, that for a cultist who would call themselves, the average occultist who can call themselves high tier, right? One way to measure out them, that concept, that idea, is to be able to call all this stuff out, as far as what you study, in people, the actual source itself. So let's just say a Piscean woman, being that a woman is the closest thing to God, the feminine energy, right? And then you got the Piscean age, which is, next to the new world, right? So you take a Piscean woman, right? And you start to see a thing in Piscean women. You say, oh no, Piscean women starting to change up, and even Piscean people. You look at the Aquarius people, all this type of stuff. You start to look at the Aries people, and you see them start to flare up. You say, hold on, it's some energy being transferred here, right? Because if you're talking about the stars, if Piscean age, you go to this age, to the next age, to the next age, and the energy transfers and refines and all this type of stuff. Well, same in people. So if you just need raw life, just human life, and you trying to measure out your occultic perspectives, you don't need books, right? Just take all of, pretty much what I just said, not the ultimate instructions, but I mean, damn, it's common sense. You know what I'm saying? Take all of that, look at human life, raw life, and say, look, I can calculate all this within a person's character. What is character? Character is the mature way of saying chakras. CHA. Character. Chakras. It's a science to that. Character is your. It's the mature way of saying personality, right? It's a different level of that, but it's a mature way of saying personality, right? It's a mature way. It's the actual way of saying chakras, just like how the actual way of saying melanin is carbon, right? What is character? The personality of your spiritual body, the moral concept of your spiritual body, your spiritual bodies. So once you can pretty much look at the principle, the unwavering principle, or the adult way that a lot of people really don't want to look at it. You know, a lot of people don't want to study law. A lot of people don't want to study carbon. They want to study melanin. A lot of people don't want to study the lower self. They want to study the higher self. They want to go straight to third eye information. Boom. They don't want to ground themselves. The root chakra is too boring, right? To learn that willpower is one of the most interesting superpowers is too boring, right? To learn about the breath is too boring. That's what a lot of people feel like. But that's the discipline. A lot of people don't like discipline like they don't like their daddy. Because daddy about discipline, right? Saturn. A lot of people don't like Saturn. That's the devil, right? A lot of people don't like accountability. A lot of people don't like responsibility. A lot of people don't like to ground, demystify their concepts. They want to keep believing in what they want to believe in. But, you know, just like Noble Ali said, Moors and even people who don't even consider themselves Moors but were truly Moors are stiff-necked and hard-headed. Cognitive dissonance is still there and strong. Most of the Moors are still in the church. This is all saying the same thing, even if you're not in the church. You might still have strong cognitive dissonance. You're mentally in the church, right? It's very simple. Why? Why is it very simple? You don't have to look at the Fibonacci sequence. You don't have to study that too. I mean, you can, but you don't have to go into the dynamics too much. Try to study so many books to find out. It's very simple. There's what you call a Bindu point, right? There's what you call an atom. There's what you call a third eye. There's what you call a black hole. There's what you call a state. When you take these higher tiers of life and realize how there's only one way to go about something, even if it has this law of correspondence, that's like saying the duality is more important than what binds the duality. That's like saying the left-hand path is more important than the right-hand path, or the right-hand path is more important than the left-hand path, but they all come from this middle path. This oneness, this unity that everybody wants. It's very simple. It's only one way to start a state government. Literally. There's instructions to make it uniform. This is the first step of unity. You can't just say it and just hope that they catch our energy and we somehow unite and understand as one. We can't try to force people to understand your religion, thinking it, trying to persuade a group of people to understand Islam or understand Christianity is the way to bring unity. It's not. That's not. To say nationality with no government, that's not realistic, right? It's not realistic to kumbaya. Oh, this about to end, so I'm gonna start another. I'm gonna start another video, man. My energy started to flare up a little bit. I'm about to start another video. Okay, I'm back. So just leading off, starting off where we left off, where I left off. Um, the importance of demystifying occultism. You know, it's really only a selective few, and I don't even want to come off cocky, and I don't even want to come off like I'm the highest of the tier. But it's really like that, you know. And I'm not saying I'm the highest of the tier, nothing. But for the people who understand Moorish statehood, like the importance in art establishing Moorish state governments, are the actual priests and priests that we talking about, the ancient priests and priests coming back, literally the ones. So just talking about, like, skip reading those books, talking about ancient orders, ancient priests, ancient Lemurians. These are the ancient secret people that did this thing. Those secret people are the people that are establishing more state governments. That's the high tier frequency. That's what's grounding the new energy. That's what's tackling everything that hasn't been tackled in a very long time. We got to know how to measure this stuff out. Not even on no egotistical stuff. But I'll say this. The people who are establishing more state governments now are probably some of the most humble people, my guess, because they've been spiritually prepped. That's what the meek shall inherit the earth. Who's going to inherit the earth? The people establishing more state governments and the people that's going to learn how to run their governments throughout the world after we teach the rest of the world how to do it. The ancient whoever's you want to study, the ancient secret people of whatever, if you are a part of a Moorish state government, that's who they're talking about. No ifs, ands, and buts. No ifs, ands, and buts. I could go in on me and my past life and order Melchizedek. That don't mean shit if you don't understand the Bendu point right now. Right now, real time. Not trying to calculate something and where somewhere else. You trying to tap into the space next to you and it goes far back to some ancient time. No. Right now. The space that birthed you into this space. More intricately, this space. Right? Some people even say this space. Right? It's get direct with yourself. Right? Remember, these thoughts is angels, and you above these angels. Don't let your cognitive dissonance beat your ass. Excuse my language. But they're thoughts that you got attached to. Right? Yeah, I'm trying to stay basic, trying to bottleneck this back into, astrology, because that's where we need to ground and merge international law. So 13 signs astrology, again, it's history about it, there's facts about it, there's things hidden about it. There's not a lot out there, but it's not everybody is gonna get it. Just like not everybody's gonna understand Moors. Not everybody's going to be saved, right? You know what I'm saying? 13 sign astrology is more truthful than 12 signs. The the 12 signs astrology is like the United States, and 13 signs astrology is like the Moorish state government. 12 signs astrology like is being like the United States. Why do I refer to it like that? Because it's something that came after something that's been established. Now, the United States has taught us a lot. It taught us a lot. Economics, right? Civics. It taught us a lot. What it didn't teach is the answer to the test, or have anywhere in their system where we can find the answer to the test, the first answer to the test, which is to start a state government. So that's when you know it's a whole nother world when you're dealing with international law, because you can find your first answer to the test there and create a whole nother world. Those who understand international law use this as a measurement for your spiritual system. Use this to carpentry, carve and instill certain logical reasonings in your spirit body. For what? When you die. That's what natal chart is really for. Past life is cool, right? That's letting you know that why you may have certain walls, why you're going through certain things now. Natal chart is also for your future. Not just your future in the physical, but your future in the spiritual. Okay? And that's kind of like a whole nother video. But being that, we start with the basics. International law, and I'm kind of being redundant, is international law is integration. Integration into what? A higher system of law. What kind of law? Universal law. As well as actual physical, real law. Realistic 3D law. Right. So, state is the Jesus word. You know how Christians can't, if it don't revolve around Jesus, it don't mean nothing to them. State is the universal word that we all need to focus on. State. State of mind. Yeah, state of mind. Yeah, I'm talking about real though. Yeah, that way too. Yeah. Not just state is heaven is a state of mind. No. I'm not talking about just working, and this is how we misalign the energy right here I'm about to explain. We missed the mark. We got put in purgatory, right? By doing what I'm about to explain. Some Moors are doing business in the United States, right? Some Moors are moving private within the United States, a government that's not a Moroccan government. The oppressor system, as we call it, right? You know the oppressor system ain't your system, no matter how you establish yourself in that fallen house. That ain't your house. That's the oppressor's house or government, right? No matter how private you think you are, or the hidden spot you think you in that house, it's not your house. They know more. They built the house. There's laws that the Moors who are doing business in an organization in the United States, there's laws that the United States is still making And if the Moors are still trying to look up in their system, talking about they moving private, they build in your house, they create more rooms. You find out about a new room, a new aspect, and you still call yourself private. They just got done making that whole room. Matter of fact, the dude just walked out the house. So I'm like, yeah, glad we got our dimensions set up. Right? No, every space of that house. We missed the mark and got put in purgatory. Now, was that way the wrong way? In a physical sense, just to draw that line, yes. But spiritually, was it wrong? Nope. Why? In this reality, it was a time that was necessary to do. Why? When Noble Drali issued this whole concept of how we should go about, he said, I brought you everything. Then he turned around and said, the half has not been told. That sounds like higher self, lower self. That sounds like 50 and 50. That means that for now, this is what we can do. Work this way within the United States. Do this, do that. This is what we can do for now. Right? Then the other side came. What's the other side? Now we can finally build and establish our own state governments. Right? Now, can we say was, and I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but this is the Gematria pretty much, kind of scope. So you're everywhere. But if Noble Drali bought us everything, then he turned around and said, half has not been told. I really haven't told you everything. I'm not saying that I'm trying to keep something from you. But there's infiltration and people took things from you. Just how you should take it and save yourselves. But it's just like saying MLK. Knowing that he ushered people mentally into a different phase of things. Now, was it physically correct? No. He knew it was a burning bush, a burning house. Excuse me. Just like Noble Drali. I'm not saying compare him to Noble Drali. But Noble Drali, he brought us everything, and yet the half has not been told. That means that he did what he could, and we got to finish it off. What does finish it off? State. Is the Moorish Science Temple America a state? No. Why? State is another word for country. Hey, peace, yo. State is another word for country. So, simple question. Just ask the Moors who don't understand this, who may be a part of temples. If the Moorish Science Temple of America is a state government, you telling me that the name of this state, which is another name for country, also another name for your government, is Moorish Science Temple of America? State, just like, look at France, right? France, that's the name of the land. French Republic is the name of the state government of France. Right? So, same thing everywhere else. Because what is state? A defined territory. What is your defined territory? Where you're living at now. The defined territory is wherever you're living at now, the so-called state you're living in now. That's the meaning. That's one of the meanings of the word state. So state is your country. It's your defined territory. Right? State is another name for country, the country you live in. So is it the state of Indiana, or is it the state of California, or is it the state of this? No. Those are corporations pretending to be states. Right? To measure this stuff out is to use the highest systems possible. The highest systems possible. And start with the basics. Okay. International law in your birth chart. And keep it G. To keep it truthful, I'm gonna keep it G. Well, dealing with me. When it come to my chart, and even when it come to my name, the science of my name, and even many other things, me, myself, in relation to the Moorish state government I'm a part of, the Moorish State Republic, as the Wazir or the Prime Minister, right? Excuse me. This is not the perfected character, because I know that the Prime Minister is not. This is my purpose, but the Prime Minister, I'm doing what must be done for now. So, but that's how you got to measure yourself, based on your natal chart, right? So my position, my purpose in this realm is to usher in, give therapy to the energy being ushered into this dimension. Right? We all came here to establish something. Right? This is talking to the spiritual community. It's more specifically the few people within that spiritual community who are ready to further ground this energy. Because there's nobody who's going to understand it more than two groups of people. It was really just one group of people, but two groups of people. Moors, the Moors who don't know about statehood or might not get privy to it yet, and the people who don't say they're Moors but are spiritual. And there's truthfully other people, because you get elderly people, who are resourceful, and I'm not saying this doesn't just strictly for young people, but a lot of older people are stuck in their ways, right? Not all. That's been proven, in many ways. So, nationality is all about character, the quality of your character. That means to come in this, even I gotta work on it. But that's letting me know that I'm a good medium point to help usher in other people who's trying to build a better quality of character themselves, i.e., proclaim nationality. Right? I cuss. Right? I still have a lot of things I can do, a lot of carpentry work, right, that I could do. How do I see myself? How do you see yourself? That's what this spiritual body and the attributes you're reaching for. Right? That's the quality of your character. What is the quality of your character? How you're maturing your chakras. Chakras and character, same thing. Right? Melanin and carbon, the same thing. You can say carbon in the whole conversation. People don't understand. You talking about the spiritual thing. Carbon. Yeah, carbon and melanin, the same thing. I'm trying to be realistic with you. Oh, yeah. I knew what you was talking about. Yeah. We need to demystify spirituality. We need to ground ourselves, right? There's no reason why it's no me. It's what I think they call themselves the Yahudin Moors. Not all of them. Few of them I really rock with. But I'm gonna tell you now, it's and these are some good-hearted people. But this is a part of the measurement system because these are some of the people that you can really learn from if you really want to talk about pure energy, pure heart. Some of the people you can really learn from, for real, for real. But on the other hand, as far as grind, everybody got that butt. I ain't trying to just call it like I'm that perfect motherfucker. And again, you see, I'm cussing, quality of character, right? So I mean, just picture that. I wouldn't be saying this if I'm in front of the United Nations. We're in front of. See, I'm speaking on behalf of all melanated people on this land, right? For governmental purposes, I wouldn't be right doing that. But again, this is a part of being real, right? Ushering in the energy, right? Even if you look at people like J. Jermaine Bay, that's a man who has very sharp and a very high quality of character. Mastered, I would say. I use it as a measurement system. I also be real with myself. So I see where I'm at, see where I gotta plug and play while I'm sharpening up my quality of character, right? Because I got goals, right? I got a purpose. Just like how everybody else should be able to call out theirs, right? So, um, in kind of just dealing more on this topic, you know, we can just go back to grounding it, because there's no reason that we should depend on ungrounded or spiritual answers strictly when we're talking about something grounded like law. Yes, there's things like natural law and universal law, but that's not all law, right? All law is holistic, it's a whole thing. You got to talk about the grounded aspects as well. So we shouldn't be, basically such of spiritual good that you're of no earthly good because you can't ground yourself or find a connecting piece to relate to people, to actually be effective, fulfilling, right? So it's very simple. You got one body. There's only one way to establish a state, right? Any group that says they have a state, what's the name of your state? Okay. You got three branches of government and elected officials. Are you saying the name of your state is the name of this country? Are you et cetera, et cetera? Right. So, this is a gematria mindset. Me personally, learning international law and just me knowing myself. Me personally, I know my path. I'm like one of the last ones to get it. I'm a Pisces. So my sun is in Pisces. Right? I'm a so-called Pisces. And we're gonna even talk about astrology a little bit more too. But personally, when a certain phase ends, I know that I'm one of the last ones to kind of catch on to something, right? Piscean energy is one of the last is the last energy, right? The last age. So again, it aligns with my personal experiences to why I tend to be the last ones to catch on. Like energy wise, I'm the last one to come into this fruition. It's always like that, but and I know why, but which is a whole nother story. But to call this stuff out is to use a certain measure, a certain number of measurement systems, a certain type of measurement systems. You got to have a gematria mindset. What do I mean by that? You got to be able to be fluid in your thinking, multi-dimensional thinking, right? You have to be um, able to be fluid yet unwavering. Both sides of the coin at all times. Peace in chaos, right? And even chaos and peace. What does that mean? Vital, be ready at all times. Potential, energy. You ever seen somebody stand and chill? They can be stiff as a statue, but they look like they could be ready to bust a move at any time. Internally, that energy is cultivating for you to be able to bust a move at any time. But you stiff, you're not moving, you're still, right? This is you working on cultivating somewhere. People need to work on implosions. Implode in love. You know how you explode, like how you ejaculate, like it just thick. But when you implode, you create more space and you become more stronger. It's really going inside. When you go inside, you go out. That's really what it's. That's why looking in. That's why it's so important. Because once you aim and cultivate all the attributes and energy, and aim all that, you aim the energy by using your attributes. The attributes of your mind, your character, your traits are like it's like what holds the energy. So if your aspects is if you got weak attributes, then your gods and goddesses are weak, right? I'm not saying weak attributes like you just suck with it in life. I'm talking about for you your ability to execute. Like you might know something, you might know you can do something, but you don't have the confidence to do it. That's what I call a weak attribute because it's inactive. You're not doing anything. It's like having a broken leg and you're on a basketball team. You can't do anything. I'm about to trade you. But so having a gematria mindset is important. And it's even more important to have a gematria mindset in realistic, real life principles, solutions. Okay. So again, so some 13 signs astrology seems so far off. The people just like more state government seem so far off. The only people they should be using 13 sign astrology. I'm not saying all only more state government people, officials and nationals, but only certain people who are never even heard about Moors. But it's only selected people who are ready to usher in an energy in a certain fashion, regardless of what that fashion is or avenue is in life. It's only certain selected people. And these are indications of a new world being ushered in. Now, NASA tried to be the first ones to taint, and I felt somebody think about that, but NASA tried to be the first ones to taint the 13 signs astrology for the umpteenth time. They're trying to taint a great reset. They're trying to control that, manipulate it. Again. So, not saying he not well. The last great reset on a certain level was in early 1900s, like 1902. Right? You can even see that in law, specifically Moroccan law. But um, so let's just think about this. If this land is milk and honey, the land of milk and honey, right? What is Earth? Earth is an acronym for heart. You connect to the earth, you connect to the heart. What is heart? The center. Why am I relating all this? Because in the physical sense, if we're relating everything to the center, right, the missing piece, we got to focus on the heart. We must do nationality, all these centerpieces to things. These unwavering principles, or what seem to be unwavering principles. They are. It's the same thing. But you got to know how to see, oh, when you say connect to your heart, you got to learn how to see that in law. Exactly that same sentence. You got to learn how to see that in law. What is connect to the heart? Connect to the heart is connect to the earth. The aspect of it, in a sense, right? There's many other ways, to actual ways to connect to the heart, of course. Meditating, all this types of stuff. Love, all this type of stuff. But if earth is an acronym for heart, right? This her, this feminine energy. We can say, okay, keep the story going. Nationality is a centerpiece of things. Naval. It's so important, it connects to everything. It's like chi. It's like saying the word chi or ki. The waters of noon. Or everything. Because nationality it relates to everything. It's like the Tippereth point. It relates to everything. It touches everything. This unwavering principle is the foundation for everything. Right? So we basically gotta, even if you waking up trying to mature your mentality from complaining about the United States and I'm spiritual and stuff, just complaining about the United States into, okay, now I'm official of a more state government. I don't complain about solutions. I don't complain about problems. I establish solutions. How? By enacting laws. How? By looking at the pain points of where you are. Right? It's just like spirituality. Law is just like spirituality. How do you fix your chakras? They say. Well, you look at the pain. Where's the pain and all this type of stuff? It's in a certain chakra. Well, you do certain breathing techniques and do certain things, and exercise, all keep going, all this type of stuff, right? Now, in law, when you have a blocked chakra, let's just call that. What is a blocked chakra? A character, right? Chakra is character, right? So your part in government, right, is coming through you, right? But even furthermore, when we see a problem in government, because a state is a person, right, in international law. So we got to talk about the organs or the concepts of a state, which is a person. That's a body. How do you fix the pain in a body? You enact laws. You fix the angles. You fix the energy. You make it upright. What is law? 90 degrees, upright, correction. Right? That's what law is. So it's enacting laws. It's simple as this. You got the state as a person, right? In a state or the government, right, which is a person. And each branch of government is like a faculty of the mind and stuff. When you see a pain point, and the question is, how do you enact laws? When you see a pain point, i.e., There's something in your state that you don't like or that you can make better. You enact laws. Simple as that. Simple as that. But we need to train our mind to basically see the spiritual in the law in a mature sense. Because that's what the priests and priests did. Who was jumping for joy? Nobody. It's not a lot of people jumping for joy to start a state government. That's a spiritual reason behind that. Everybody wants to be a part of the government that brings the people back. But nobody wants to be the government that brings the people back. So that's a reason for that. Not everybody should. It's not smart. If everybody woke up now, it'll be dangerous. Because not everybody has a quality of character. You can't trust everybody. If we told all the melanated people to just come on, boom, be a part of the state government, like that's the reality. Like they would just come in like that, and it's not realistic. That's wishing on a star that don't exist. So there's no point of even really discussing it too much. You know, what if we can discuss more closer realities, right? So not everybody's gonna be jumping for joy. Again, it's a reason behind that. That's a measurement system. Who's not ready? Okay, so many people. Who is ready? Okay, so many people. Who's gonna stick around? Not everybody that came in. Some people gonna come into this and prove themselves to be an actor. Oh, you wasn't one of them ancient ones. You was just one of the ones who was around one of the ancient ones who doing the same thing under the sun that you're doing today. Ain't nothing new. It's a little bit refined, right? But it's the same thing. If you call it out, boom, you going past life, plus some, future, all that. I know I'm getting off topic because it's supposed to be about 13 signs and 12 signs astrology. But I'll make a whole nother video about that, man. I guess I'll just call this video a Gematria mindset, I guess, in international law. Because you always gotta, Gematria mindset is a little bit too spaced out of a topic. International law, not a lot of people are attracted to that topic. It's too grounded. Right? He said law. I'm gonna look the other way. Right? So all these are measurement systems. Just like how real estate. I remember when I was first getting into real estate. And I began to see that measurement system in many ways. Right? Real estate, you expect a lot of older people to know about real estate. It's one of them things that, it's one of those high tier demiurge. You can repackage it like that, even though there's many concepts behind that demiurge. But this was one of the high tiers of the lower tiers. I'm talking about real estate. Because I realized that when I spoke about real estate being a young person, I'm 31 now. When I spoke at the time, I was like 25. Yeah, something like that. But when I was talking about real estate to older people who didn't know about real estate, or they felt that like, dang, this young person is talking about something that I should be on. You know what I mean? it was used as a measurement system of confidence and spirituality. So it's one of those high tier things in a certain sphere of reality. Right. So some people think if we just go out and physically buy the land, that everything's gonna be fine. You don't own the land. Even if you're paying for it, the government owns that land. Right? Especially if you're a citizen. There's no way you can physically own anything as a U.S. citizen. They letting you own that. So even if you have a trust, because guess what? Everybody who's in it is a part of a corporation that's pretending to be a government. Boom. How grounded is all your stuff in that? Not too grounded. So, Supreme Court Corporation. Why are you trying to go to court with them? What's the point of weighing out corporation or weighing out your lawsuit if you win a lawsuit? If the Supreme Court is a corporation itself, no point. It's kind of dumb, in my opinion. A lot of more say, how many cases have you won? Oh, you talking about in the Supreme Court, there's a corporation? It's not even a government? You talking about that? Those cases? So-called cases? We shouldn't be in them courts. First of all, because they're not even real courts. For two, we should be establishing our own courts. How do you do that? By establishing a state. So you can enforce Moorish state laws throughout the state, i.e. the country. Simple as that. Not the state of Indiana, not the state of California, not the state of Kentucky, whatever. Not those laws. Those are not true states. What gives you your power? Moorish treaties. That's it. You look at the laws and the treaties. You say, hey, boom, we establish a state. You look at the laws and the treaties and said we need to enact certain laws, right? We need to repackage this. How can we repackage this? Let's look at our pain points. That's how you learn law. Women gossip all the time. Use your gossiping skills. Reform and repackage and refine that into looking into the pain points of a Moorish state government and say, look, this pain point needs a solution. It needs healing. What heals the pain? Laws. Enact laws, right? So that, you can cross the T's and dot the I's. Now, let's talk more. Matter of fact, let's talk about this. The reality. Because you already know it's going to be two sides of things. You already know. So let's talk about the reality of more state governments. Because a lot of people think that, it's just a pen and a piece of paper. How far are you going to get with that? Some people still think that we need to go out with guns, armed up. First thing to do is to establish a military. Let's talk about this word right quick. The reality. Okay, let's start off with this. The statement, not everybody's going to respect your laws. Hey, Moors, not everybody's going to respect your government. And that's just reality. Right? Let's talk about that world. The world of that statement. Before we state anything else, let's talk about the world of that statement first. When we establish state governments, we're about peace. Why? We have a treaty of peace and friendship The war is over. That's just the facts. That's just the truth. The United Nations is about peace, right? There's such thing as what you call a United Nations Army, just in case peace is not being fulfilled or respected. So not everybody's going to respect everything, right? Okay. Again, just talking more about that. If we're about peace, United Nations is about peace. And it's our duty to put United Nations on the record, put them on notice. So that's all you got to do, as long as you put them on notice the right way. You put the United States on notice as well, right? The president and the governor of whatever your state is, putting everybody on notice, as long as you follow the directions. But that's the directions of the United Nations, just put them on notice. That's the actual directions. But so you put them on notice, and let's just say after some time, there's the so-called white Americans, or Europeans, as you know, some people call them, right? WIGHT. They'll find out, hey, we don't like you. We don't like melanated people. We don't like whatever. We don't even like our own government, because we're finding out that it has led us astray, right? So you got these, so-called racist people acting belligerent, right? Well, let's think about the reality of this. Okay. It's only going to be so many people that's like that, right? We're going to have policy enforcement under our authority. Why? Because the United States, even though this is always go both ways, right? The United States don't ever want to give up the truth. They rather give up a few people, maybe a person, maybe a whole section. They'll rather give up one or a whole section of people than give up the actual substance of what keeps itself. So when it's up to us to negotiate that Treaty of Peace and Friendship again, sometime during the 2030s, when it's time to renegotiate that, right, they're going to want to stay. There's so many on their best behavior. Why? Not only because of a piece of paper, because the enforcement, the power that they're being cornered by. What's the power? The power started with the pen, but that's not the power, the holistic power I'm talking about. The power started with the pen, but that's not the holistic thing I'm talking about. Right? People just ain't scared of pens. Right? It's the mind connecting that pen, connecting it to the actual power. You ain't just scared of a gun just laying there. You lay there all you want to. Right? It's the person behind it. Right? So what do I mean by this? Who are they scared of? United Nations. UN Army. Right? What military is going to be outside of the doors of Noble Drali talking about? UN Army. Counterintelligence. An enemy of an enemy is my friend. This is not our war. This is not our war. That time is over with. Those the seals, what sealed the deal, seals, is these treaties. That's one section of people, right? The people who gonna be the white Americans. Hey, we don't like Moors or melanated people at all, and we don't even like our own government. That's so many people. The other people are who? The people in the middle, right? Again, Moorish state government is about peace. About peace. All United States citizens will be under the protection and the authority of Moorish state governments, as long as they're in that state, within the boundaries of that state government, right? State is a country and an actual government, right? So, literally international law. So, we have to use counterintelligence. Okay? All this stuff that people scared of. FEMA camps, whatever excuse, I don't care what it is. You're protected as long as you use your mind. What do I mean by that? Not only spiritual, but law. Connect the two. It's about to be chaotic times coming soon. According to Archaics, James Bearshear or something like that. Bearshear, after 2040 is when, stuff is going to hit the fan. It's been recorded by other scientists that, around 2045, 2046, that the end of the white person, the European or whatever, they'll be off the face of this planet. This type of stuff. These are basically cold concepts to give you a soft disclosure of another type of reality that's going to be grounded into this reality. So if you kind of retrace back of a few things I said, in 2030s we're going to be renegotiating, somewhere in the 2030s we're going to be renegotiating the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? 2040s things are going to change. This phoenix, the eye in the sky coming back. Every time this thing come back, something disastrous happen or something crazy happen. It ain't got to be disastrous as far as like, nature and people dying and stuff. But just for so many people, yeah. For so many people, yeah. But the people who were protected during these great resets was the people controlling these great resets. Guess who's controlling the great reset? More state government. These are the actual pinpointed spheres. People that's making the United States shake. Not no altar by one person. Not no altar by 10 people. No. Everything that a person's spirit, mental is about, their spirituality as a whole, plus the physical. That's what justice is coming for. Right? Holistic view. There are no spaces that you can run from. You can have whatever spiritual conversation you want. You can have whatever lawful conversation you want. Meet me in the middle and I'll meet you there. Go to the middle, I'll meet you there. I might be there. I'm already there. But the thing is to, again, first of all, learn cognitive dissonance. Gematria, you can't have gematria conversations with everybody. Right? Some people get so far off in a conversation, they get annoying because they're not grounded enough. They get annoying because they're not utilizing both sides of the brain. When you over sitting like, man, it's getting too serious. I need some laughter. You know what I'm saying? I need something to shake me up. You need both sides of the brain, up and down, both sides of the coin. Right? So, utilize your birth charts, face your cognitive dissonance like a G, and it simultaneously be light with yourself. So we talking about natal charts, international law as the theme of this video, right? Because not everybody's gonna be an official in the state government. And from there, you plug and play and make the two connect. Because, like I just said, I could go in on how I know that the United States and whoever is really watching Moors creating more state governments like we celebrities. Like they're spiritual celebrities who they watch for information, but ain't nobody being watched more. I can guarantee you that. Then the Moors starting more state governments. They can actually change the physical, not just talk about the spiritual. Change the physical. And we can really have a part 2 on this substance based on stories, actual real life things to show and prove what works and what doesn't. Right? Success stories. Does this Moorish state government really work? Oh, I want to see somebody else do it before I even get involved to see if it works. Some people are like that. That's fine. I actually would prefer that. I just want the people who are ready to step up. But only knives sharpen knives. We can't just talk about sweet talk and try to, avoid things that's too much tension. But that's the actual solution. Right? I'm not about to do that. So that's just me. But so again, I'm about to close this video up. But again, this is all spiritual alchemy. But at the same time, take your spiritual and take discipline and ground it. Alright, so peace.